All right. Looks like we are live and curious. Have you ever wondered why companies require an ICF credential? Well, let's talk about it. I'm Laurel Elders, founder and CEO of the Institute for Integrative Intelligence. I've been a professional coaching geek since 2005, currently hold a master certified coach credential with the ICF. And I have with me today our senior partner at the Institute, Michael Tucker. Michael is a PCC credentialed coach with the ICF and also an executive coach. Welcome, Michael. It's good to be back on the call with you.
Oh yeah, it's good to be back. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, today we just want to talk about ICF credentialing. And, Michael, you and I have been noticing an uptick in missed opportunities for coaches to really vastly grow their businesses because they either skip the coaching education or they skip the credential. And I was just curious if you wanted to share more with the audience about why was this on your heart in particularly?
Yeah, what really sparked this conversation was a couple of weeks ago when you and I were talking, and I got this email from this coach that phenomenal coach from everything that I know of her and seen of her. I had this opportunity for her, and I said, "Hey, I want you to work with me on this project. I can't think of a better person." I noticed that I don't see your ICF credentials on your LinkedIn. Like, are you credentialed and certified? And she goes, "No, but I've been through all this training." And she's right. I mean, she had gone through just about every training that I had gone through, but she hadn't gotten the ICF credential. And in that moment, I felt like this anger just come over me because I wanted to work with her. And the thing, the what I'm seeing that there are so many opportunities out here for coaches, with organizations as coaching is starting to become more mainstream, and companies are specifically requesting ICF coaches, and sometimes they're specifically requesting Black or Hispanic or some other group of coach. And I know people will probably think, if you're watching, you might be thinking, "Oh my gosh, like, what does the race have to do with it?" But let me tell you something. That's not even a part of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
People want to coach who they want to coach with. And if that's you and you're unique, you're wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for me, and thank you for sharing that. I really wanted to have this discussion also because I think some coaches are on the fence of and even wonder why the companies are requiring this.
Mhm.
And so I really wanted to speak to that today to provide some clarity and some things to consider and how the credential can open doors, but why it opens doors too, right? I've noticed that a couple things. One, that ICF credentialed coaches are really sought after because they're educated and trained in taking people 100% into their potential, whereas coaches without the education are skilled to take people maybe halfway. And so trained and uneducated coaches tend to rely heavily on what they know. Certified and credentialed coaches are required to lean into what they don't know. And it seems counterintuitive, but this leverages the effectiveness of the coaching because it requires the client to do the internal work of reaching their potential. So I know at the school we talk about human potential. We specialize in human potential. That's what sets us apart. And the first part of human potential is being shown the way. So leaning into leading, telling, advising, guiding, that's only going to help someone get so far because the second part of reaching one's potential is about going within. And it's through self-discovery. So as much as I would love to give everyone their personal power, I can't. That's an inside job. As much as I would love to give everyone their confidence, that's an inside job. That comes from being coached. That comes from self-discovering. And ICF trained and credentialed coaches are skilled and assessed to make sure that they've reached that level of those skill sets in the field.
Yeah. It's interesting as I'm hearing you talk about this. One of the things that came to my mind was how I was coaching before I became ICF Credential coach. And I share this because I get it. I mean, I was what I like to call a maverick coach for about 6 years prior to getting credential. And I will tell you, there were a number of things that transformed in the way that I coach. And of course, that I was already getting good results with clients, but this really helped me get great results consistently. And most importantly, from a mental and emotional state, what I noticed was prior to doing my ICF training, I felt that I was responsible for getting results for my clients. So I would have a client with all of these different things going on. And by the end of that session, I was completely drained and exhausted. And immediately I thought, after having that experience so many times, it made me think, man, this is not a sustainable profession for me. But one of the things that I learned through the coach training and through the ICF credentialing process is how to not have that happen, and instead leave the coaching engagement inspired and uplifted and alive. So even being stronger than I came into the coaching engagement with. And what you're talking about, Laurel, I mean, ties directly into this generative way of being and this generative invitation that we're taught to allow clients to enroll in and participate in for themselves and for their life.
Yes. Yeah, that is so well put. And I love that you said generative, because, I think taking someone through that self-discovery process without stepping in to do the work for them, without leading, without, doing, basically guiding them, they're guiding themselves. And the coach, what I've learned and love about coaching is the coach is the expert in the coaching framework and process, in the self-discovery process, in putting aside bias and putting aside the leading and letting the client dig deep. The client is the expert in themselves. And one of the things, I think the biggest value I've taken away is I used to, it's kind of embarrassing to admit, when I came into coaching, I thought, oh, I have so much I want to share. I have so much I want to teach. And I wanted to impart my wisdom. And I realized my wisdom's for me. What's the wisdom within that person? What is their success formula? And I realized that I could be the expert in all these external things, but I will never, ever be the expert of someone else's truth. Period. Dot. They are the expert of their truth. And I'm here as the coach to bring that out and to honor it and to help them build on it. And it's, I get excited.
Yeah, I get fired up about it. I love that. And I get fired up about that as well, because the types of outcomes that clients can create when the space is made for them to just be present and co-create, you're never, whatever you think that it's never going to be better than what the client can come up with for themselves.
Yeah.
Now I will say this, sometimes in coaching engagements, a client wants some very specific guidance and direction based on your experience. And so as a credential coach, what you learn how to do is you learn how to capture that for the client in those moments, and then move back into allowing the client to lean into their own wisdom. And there's an art to this. There's an art, it's a science. And you can do this gracefully. And what I will tell you is, if you do it ungracefully, well, now you move into a place where you're advising and telling the client things that could potentially create a liability for you as a coach. And so maybe you could talk about liability a little bit, Laurel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But first, I just want to say I'm so glad that you brought that up, because there's two things that can block someone. One, it could be lack of information, right? And the client might need information, external information. But sometimes we want someone to give us the answer because we want to give our power away. Then if we have to come up with our own answers, we have to be responsible. That can be scary. So part of the a trained, ICF training is really to say, let me just double check. What's within the client first? What's within them? What is their motivation for asking for advice? Right. And just being able to hold that space too.
Yeah. It's so funny. I love it when some clients are asking me, well, what do you think I should do?
Mhm.
And my question is, what does it matter what I think?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. My mentor used to say, why do you want to give your power away? I'm like,
Wow.
all right.
Yeah.
All
Wow.
right. So now, yeah, let's go into the second reason why companies are requiring the ICF credential, and that is the liability and the legal component, because ICF coaches are trained and educated in the ethics and the process of coaching. Because it's self-discovered, we're not advising, we're not assessing, we're not diagnosing. Coaching, when done properly, is way lower liability because the client's responsible. The client's responsible for their own process, for taking action, for coming up with their solutions. So just consider, when you tell someone what to do, your responsibility in that and what happens next does go way up. And ICF coaches know exactly where to draw those lines. And they're assessed on their capacity to know how to draw those lines. So the other thing to consider is companies are requiring that ICF credential because non-ICF coaches are seen as a potential legal liability. You just don't know what you're getting, versus if you have a credential, the company can go, okay, they're holding themselves to the ethical standard. They know exactly how to take someone through that self-discovery process, which is a you know development process. It's expanding skill sets, but it's all coming from within versus being told.
Yeah. Well, the other piece of this is really about effective performance of the coach.
Mm,
So, and this is not to say that you can't be an effective, high performing coach without an ICF credential.
right.
But from a company's perspective, if they bring you in, you start off with, hey, this person can reasonably do a good job. Of course, there are people who don't do a good job in all professions, but at least you start off from that perspective that, hey, at least we know this person has this credential. We know what we can reasonably expect from them, and we know the kind of outcome we can reasonably expect.
Mhm.
And so from a performance standpoint, that's also important to companies. And I got to tell you, I mean, companies, they spend big money on coaching.
Yeah.
They really do, because coaching, and the latest research that I saw, is that for every dollar that's spent on coaching, a company will receive a 5x return on their investment. And that's an old statistic. So maybe it's a little better with some of the newer forms of training out now, but this is a very important thing for them. And and especially, you start to look at the younger generations and what they value in terms of benefits from their organizations. Coaching is a big one. They're looking for this, and so that's another thing that's driving demand. It's just a change in generations, and coaching is just, it's expected. It's interesting. I was talking to a woman. She just got picked up as a CEO of an organization, and I asked her, I said, did you ask for coaching as a part of your compensation package? And she said, absolutely, and the employer is going to provide it. So people are asking for this,
Mhm.
and you want to make sure that you are prepared completely to be able to step into these opportunities when they show up.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Especially like you're saying, if you want to work with companies or be hireable, the ICF credential opens way more doors, way more doors.
Right. Yeah. And the last thing I'll talk about on this, Laurel, is about consistency of income.
Mhm.
There was a period of time where my income was like this. It was very
Mm.
much up and down, and the highs were high and the lows were low. And I find that a lot with coaches. People have this calling, they feel it in their heart, and they might go and do I'll say some type of a certification that's not ICF, and they're wondering why their income is up and down the way that it is. And this is not to say that you can't come up with some kind of other program that people call coaching, but it's not actually coaching, because I see that a lot.
Yep.
However, when you have this credential, it opens doors for things like contract coaching. That's a really, really big one. A really, really big one. You can make a six-figure income just doing contract coaching with larger coaching organizations. And I'm just thinking about some coaches that I've hired to work with clients. I've paid coaches anywhere from $250 an hour to $1,000 an hour to work with clients who have very specific, very unique needs.
Mhm.
And so this, from an income standpoint, that's another reason that this makes sense. The other thing is it just gives you that credibility when you're being compared to other coaches. So if I'm a HR director of a major corporation and I'm looking at 5 coaches that I want to provide to my directors or my CEO,
Mhm.
you're not getting on that list if you don't have that ICF credential. And I don't really care how amazing you are as a person. I mean, you have those, the Anthony Robbins of the world, but those guys are outliers.
Mhm.
So why would you want to create that kind of gamble with your career?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. So, in summary, companies are requiring ICF credentials for 2 primary reasons: efficacy and ROI. They know that the ICF coaches are trained in the full self-discovery process and taking people fully into their potential. And then also the second reason is the ethics and sustainably or substantially lowered liability. Um, that is something companies need to consider. And so they know that ICF coaches do follow a code of ethics and know exactly where to draw lines on the advising pieces. So we hope that our experience as seasoned coaches has been illuminating to your professional path today as a coach or even a future coach if you're considering coach training. And if you are ready to become a credentialed coach, we would love to help. We have 3 options. So if you're already a trained coach and have kind of piecemealed some of your trainings together, we do see this a lot. We take transfer students. We will help you take your trainings and put them into a fast track towards your ICF credential, PCC, or towards your MCC credential, and even ACC if you're just starting out. We also start level 1 and level 2 trainings October 5th. And if you would love to be a deeper dive human potential coach, we would love for you to consider us. I love to say that if you're only looking for coaching skills, we'll refer you to a different program. We don't do that. we go deep. We go deep into human potential, and you will learn all of the ICF standards, competencies, the art and the science of masterful coaching. But we're also going to take you deeper into human potential so that you can take your clients even further. So if that sounds amazing to you, reach out to us, admissions@integrativeintelligence.global. Again, that's admissions@integrativeintelligence.global. We can walk you through all the options and answer any questions that you have. So that's it for now. Michael, anything else before we hop off today?
I would just say don't sell yourself short.
Mm.
Don't sell yourself short. And I've seen this way too many times. I did it for a long time. And had I known what I know now, I would have gotten credentialed way, way sooner.
Same. Same. Yeah. I piecemealed my education together, and then I realized later it would have just been great to just go for it. just go for it. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Hope everyone's having an amazing week and happy Wednesday. We hope to see you next time.